Pokemon as an anime series truly has given many generations of fans something to attach themselves to. From the fun Pokemon battles to the people we meet along the way, the journey we have followed for 2.5 decades has been solely centered around one central figure that, despite going through several slight design changes, has been around since the very beginning of it and is set to retire from the anime this year. Last month we began our journey of following Ash Ketchum, a boy from Pallet Town, whose adventure has and will take us to some incredible moments, whether from the growth of himself and his connection to his Pokemon, or just the many towns, cities, and regions he travels to. Today we are continuing our journey with Ash from where we left off. While you can view these videos in any order, this is technically part 2, meaning today we will get to focus on the second generation of Pokemon within the anime world, from the episodes to the movies and maybe even a bit more, as we get to enter one of my personal favorite times in Pokemon's history. The knowledge of a new region, new Pokemon, and more to see. So without further ado, thanks for joining me on this adventure, and whether this is your first stop on the ride or you're returning for more, welcome to the complete guide to Ash's journey.
Welcome to the Johto League.
Just as a brief refresher, Ash at this point has completed his time in the Kanto region, from meeting Misty and Brock to facing every gym leader. Whether or not he truly earned the badges is a whole other thing entirely, to then not win the Indigo League. Instead, Ash learned a lot about what it takes to be a Pokemon master, what real training and bonding with your Pokemon mean. This was further emphasized when we entered the second season and checked out the Orange Islands, where Ash gained some new perspective on team building with his Pokemon and preparing him for his journeys ahead in the Johto region. Here he ends up winning the small Orange Island League, but still facing off against his greatest and most challenging opponent yet in order to do so. Now that Ash has the building blocks of what it takes to start becoming a lot more well-rounded as a trainer in general, he now faces a lot harder of a challenge, as he'll soon find out that things only get tougher from here. With a slew of new Pokemon to meet, tougher trainers to defeat, and his pals Misty and Brock by his side, Ash's journey through Johto is ready to begin. The start of a brand new adventure. And you know what that means? Another encounter with a mysterious legendary Pokemon that we are unsure of yet. Well, at least it's from this generation, as it's Suicune, one of the 3 legendary beasts that does have a connection to Ho-Oh, the Pokemon we saw in the first episode of Pokemon. Ash, Misty, and Brock, who are all back together now, when making their way downtown, walking fast, faces pass, and their new Barktown bound, stumble across this legendary sighting when being somewhat lost in an insanely fog-ridden part of the woods. And when they do arrive in town, they find out that something is amiss, thanks to Nurse Joy not being around due to being busy at the professor of the region, Professor Elm's lab. It's a crime scene as the nurse is yelling at Elm for being careless with being too lost in his work. So what had happened was that Team Rocket found themselves at the lab first, and his busy work didn't let him pay attention to who was actually there to check on their Totodile, thinking it was Nurse Joy, but clearly it wasn't. So now Team Rocket has Poke-napped a Totodile, one of the Johto region's starter Pokemon. We also see Cyndaquil, and that's my favorite starter Pokemon in general of all of them. I just love him. Ash and company end up coming across Team Rocket, but thanks to Totodile having a fixed bite on Jesse's hair, it's not as simple as them just, giving him back. Ash's Bulbasaur is able to save the Totodile, but it's this all-out affair where Ash has out a full lineup of heavy hitters taking out Team Rocket, and then Nurse Joy helps Ash become signed up for the Johto League officially, sparking Ash's personal journey through the new region with some stops he'll need to make along the way.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Pikachu!
We next get to meet the last one of the 3 new starters, the Chikorita. It belongs to the new on her adventure trainer, Casey. That is an eccentric sports fan, which of course Ash proceeds to diss their skills by just pointing out the obvious little fact of that team not doing so well. But a sports fan will take anything like that personally, so Casey here challenges Ash to a battle. Literally, the first match is a Pidgey that she has and Ash's Charizard. But this is a new trainer who isn't as skilled as to where Ash is, at least. And so after Pidgey, both Rattata and Chikorita follow suit in easily being taken out by Charizard, who uses 0.1% effort to do so. Ash is looked at as the bad guy here for going this hard on a new trainer, but who hasn't skipped an early trainer battle in the video games only to come back with a level 100 Pokemon to destroy their sub 10 level Pokemon, then rob them of their coin. Team Rocket even convinces Casey, when they run into her after this battle, that Ash was a cheater, using such a skilled Charizard like that. It's not fair, and Casey ends up challenging Ash once more, now with Pikachu versus Chikorita, and Ash's friends switch up on Ash, now rooting for Casey, which is cool, you know, like support these new trainers, encourage them, but you need to back your boy Ash here. Come on, that's your guy. But they still give these callouts to Ash, which is kind of funny as he still doesn't believe in type advantages, and his friends in the audience are still like, hey, you know that you're using the wrong type here, you're at a disadvantage. He just does whatever he wants and sends out whoever he feels like for the most part, who has the time to go by typing. He's just like me for real. The battle gets interrupted by Team Rocket, of course, and when Casey feels defenseless here in getting her Pokemon back as they tricked her, Ash builds up her confidence to not give up and keep fighting for what's important. They defeat Team Rocket eventually, and they share a mutual respect for one another from their battles and lessons learned before they part ways. But now it's time for Ash to catch his first new Johto region Pokemon, a Heracross, where Ash helps it in battle from some pincer, and afterwards, it just drinks the soul out of Bulbasaur aggressively. Well, alright then. But Ash and friends get involved in this divided land war between Pinsir and Heracross to make sure that they all stay out of each other's areas, especially being this battle ready towards one another, as Heracross wanted to make sure this Butterfree was okay. And after this whole little adventure, Heracross just follows them out of the forest and wants to be on Ash's team, so Ash just caught a Heracross, I guess. I like Heracross. Now, just like we saw in the first Pokemon movie that there was a new Pokemon named Donphan that we didn't know about, we get to see a bunch of them for a brief moment, which is nice. Heck, they all run into Gary already, who has a hoot with his hoot messing with the group, giving Ash some more drive to be on Gary's level or better. Nothing like good old motivational rivalry to really get the blood flowing in the morning, you know? We get to meet some Blossom, a fancy Snubble, you know, just really get the tour of some new Generation 2 Pokemon. But we also get to meet another Chikorita, which Ash wants to catch this one, and of course has Charizard out to battle it again, but this Chikorita puts up a way better fight, resulting in Chikorita still needing some help from the Pokemon Center, but having this strength like Ash to not give up and to keep getting back up. Even when Ash is trying to help the Chikorita, it bites him. Maybe it's her tough spirit that she doesn't give up in the fight, so she's still attacking Ash, or it's a sign of thanks and how much Chikorita may come to love Ash. Foreshadowing? Could be. Guess we shall see. After getting Chikorita some help though at the Pokemon Center, Team Rocket gets involved as usual. Chikorita ends up running off and a snowstorm comes in. Ash goes out after the Chikorita and gets stuck out there, but doesn't give up the search. When we catch up with Chikorita, she's not doing too well within the weather, and either am I. Look at all this snow. It's March. Piss off. Chikorita is brought back to safety thanks to Ash showing her some genuine care. They together take out Team Rocket, and once again, another Pokemon just wants to join Ash. Chikorita follows him and wants to be on Ash's journey with him after the great lengths of care and strength Ash has shown. We also get to hang out with Quagsire for a moment, where we deal a bit with Ash's responsibility in taking care of the GS ball, and I want to just mention that here, but later we will have a lot to talk about when it comes to that little GS ball, okay? So far, a majority of these episodes are bringing in a bunch of new Pokemon from the second generation, much like the original series showing us all of the Pokemon at that time. So far this season, every episode is bringing in a bunch of fun new Pokemon, giving us the feeling of the world expanding, of Ash's journey widening. It's so refreshing while feeling so similar. But now Ash and friends have made it to Violet City, where he can finally start his new badge collecting goal by facing off against the gym leader Faulkner, who just helped them take out Team Rocket before officially revealing himself to the group, with Ash ready for a battle against him and his flying Pokemon. Things start pretty simple with Chikorita fighting his Hoot. Ash gets some more lectures about type advantages, this time from the gym leader himself, but Ash finally says it like it is, that not everyone should be judging by the typing. On one hand, yeah, I feel that. On the other hand, technically, there is some importance there, because Hoot Hoot takes out Chikorita, so now it's Pikachu's turn, where he ends up taking him out, and then now faces off against a Dodrio, who ends up putting up a decent fight, but Pikachu ends up still clutching that victory too. Now down to his last Pokemon, Faulkner sends out his Pidgeot that easily takes down Pikachu, leaving Ash with only one Pokemon that can match the strength and is determined for a challenge, the Charizard. The two winged beasts engage in a massive battle, resulting in Charizard pushing himself with getting the upper hand, ending the battle with a seismic toss from the heavens down to the arena, taking out Pidgeot and giving Ash his first badge in the Johto region, the Zephyr badge. And we ain't talking the level from Spyro to Ripto's Rage. But we need to speak about Charizard briefly here, as not long after him and Ash together win the Zephyr badge, the group run into Liza, who is a caretaker of the Charizard training grounds, Terrific Valley, which is full of other Charizards and even a romantic interest Charizard for Ash's Charizard named Charla. How cute. Ash has never ridden on his Charizard for flying around, and until Charizard is now convinced to allow Ash to try and do this from Liza and Charla, it was a whole new experience, and Charizard wasn't too into this whole idea. But we do get to learn about Charizards needing to train against one another in the wild for the most part to truly become the battle-ready but extremely disciplined warriors that they are. The Charizard here are way tougher than Ash's, easily getting the upper hand and testing each other's strengths. But this wild Charizard here is kind, as it's a big softie, making sure Ash's Charizard is okay, but of course, the old tendencies of Charizard are sneaking back in as he begins to go on a rampage, regardless of Ash telling him he's still great no matter what, and Ash thinks no different of him not being as powerful, which we'll get to that line again in a second. The other Charizards here do not tolerate this behavior, and Ash's Charizard is no longer welcome to be there. In fact, the whole group gets pushed out and told to come back once Ash's Charizard has had some real training before he's able to get some of this next level training in the Terrific Valley. All Charizard wants to do is get back inside, prove his strength, and become like the others, standing there pounding at the gate until knocked back by Charla and told again from Liza to reflect on your behavior. Because of this, the trio spend the night outside of the area since Charizard has refused to leave, and is determined to wait there until he can get back inside. Liza makes note of Charizard's determination throughout the night though. But then on cue, in the morning, Team Rocket comes through to try and get to the gates themselves to find a strong Charizard to steal for themselves. But Ash's Charizard easily defeats them, making Charizard look really good for defending off the gates. But let's rewind. Team Rocket here is actually doing another good thing for Ash's Pokemon. Back in the original series, Meowth translates to Jesse and James what Pikachu is going through when refusing to evolve into a Raichu with the Thunderstone he was given, and then they go and root for Pikachu to win against Raichu. Here with Charizard, they notice that it isn't as strong as the others, and Meowth relays how Charizard is feeling in his determination and struggle, helping him physically here by both making sure Charizard stays awake with his flame lit, and then by knowing that their mech would be easily destroyed by Charizard if they used it, basically going out there just to get blasted off at the expense of Charizard looking good. And now the gates are opened and he is welcomed in, to which he is excited about, but Ash, well, he pulls a goodbye Pikachu, but still having this tendency that being mean is easier than saying goodbye, because it somehow will hurt less. But Ash mentions to Charizard he can stay if he wants to, and that he doesn't want a weak Charizard anyway. I thought you said you didn't care how strong he was, Ash. Now fully holding back his real emotions. Continuing on to say that he has a lot to learn here in this valley, and with him not giving Charizard the chance to think twice, Ash fully knowing that this is what Charizard wants, he runs out of there crying in sadness of losing a friend for now, but happy Charizard will find his happiness and the strength that he wants to find. Charizard, out of respect to Ash, sends a flamethrower beaming into the sky, roaring out as we hit one of the hardest pieces of art in the whole series. This is big for Charizard in his path for growth, as well as Ash for him to continue to grow as a trainer, knowing what's best for his Pokemon and how he needs to navigate it. I do think he needs to not be a butthead being all like, who wants a weak Charizard anyway? But I like to imagine it as him having this fun, playful gut punch, where it helps make Charizard work harder and it motivates him, and it just shows that they're closer in their friendship. Like, I don't want a weak Charizard anyway, huh? Why don't you go in there and train, buddy? But then he just runs off crying. So regardless, great episode and a super early on launch for one of Ash's strongest Pokemon for this new journey.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Gengar!
Another pattern we see here is Ash acquiring the starter Pokemon from the region. With one down, I guess it's time for another, replacing his first fire starter for a new one, welcoming in Cyndaquil. Hey, just look at this little dude, I love him. Now we reach our next major moment, at least to me, where Ash and friends reach Azalea Town, where Ash wants to take on the gym, but Misty brings up finishing the errand with the GS ball first, especially since there is a drought going on and the gym is currently closed because of it. There seems to be a lot of Slowpoke love around the town as Ash steps on a Slowpoke's tail by accident, causing everyone in the town to chase them out of it for some reason. Here's where they meet a mysterious man in a Slowpoke costume who has multiple backup costumes for them to wear as well. But now we get the tale, pun intended, of why Slowpoke are so beloved and worshipped in this town. 400 years ago, during another drought, a Slowpoke came to the area and yawned, causing it to rain, and everyone was happy because Slowpoke saved the town. So Ash basically disrespected a whole town's religion. So along with this mysterious dude, the group ends up saving the day, helping out the Slowpoke, and defeating Team Rocket, and hey, look, it rains! But now we need to get back to finding Kurt. Oh, that's Kurt. Wow, that's convenient. I totally didn't see that coming. Anyway, now for the moment of truth with the GS ball. We are finally going to get our answers, right? Right? Oh boy. Okay, so here we meet Kurt and his granddaughter, as Kurt is a Pokeball expert who can create special Pokeballs through apricorns as we really start expanding through all the different types of Pokeballs out there. Kurt begins to look at the GS ball trying to figure it out, and spends the majority of the episode doing so as Ash lets Professor Oak know about this and asks that Ash report to him as soon as possible if there is anything of note. But by the end of the episode, Kurt only knows that it's sealed by a mighty lock and nothing more than that. But he wants to spend more time with it, so Ash just leaves the ball within his care to do just that, as Ash has a gym battle to go face. Okay, now before we continue on the journey, we have to talk about the GS ball, okay? Probably the biggest nothing burger that was supposed to be a something burger, but yet my plate is left empty and my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. In the Orange Islands, Professor Ivy is the one in possession of the mysterious Pokeball who needs it to go over to Professor Oak, so Ash takes on the responsibility of that. It literally is the plot-driving device that is constantly talked about for the rest of the Orange Islands and into the Johto region. And the biggest thing we get is, oh, I want to research it longer. Thanks, Ash. See you later. It's literally written out of the show after this. It doesn't matter whatsoever. Later on, we get a flashback that involves it, but outside of that, for the anime, there is nada. You can't just invent the coolest Pokeball and give it no payoff. That's not fair. And this is where I first experienced heartbreak and why I have so many trust issues. It was a complete ball of nothing, literally, or so we are led to believe in the context of the anime itself. We have several avenues to break this down. The GS ball has not only appeared in the anime, in fact, it's in the other forms of Pokemon media as well. If we look to the video game Pokemon Crystal version, no, not that one, this one, the Japanese release, there was an event item you can get from the Trade Center attendant where you receive the GS ball, and so you bring it to Kurt, just like in the anime. He spends a day looking at it, where upon him returning it to you, you head to the Ilex Forest, specifically looking for the shrine, and when you interact with it, you will encounter the mythical Pokemon Celebi here at level 30. Interesting because in the Pokemon Adventures manga, specifically during the Gold, Silver, and Crystal chapter, which covers volumes 8 through 15, it even comes with more lore as we learn about the GS ball being created by someone who goes by the name The Masked Man, who is essentially the replacement for Giovanni and leading a new version of Team Rocket. Well, his real identity may actually shock you if you actually read the manga or plan on reading it, so I won't spoil it here. I'm still thinking about making that manga channel. I can do it, but I might not. But just another warning, I can do it. And the whole backstory of this GS ball being involved in time travel is all really exciting. Being partly made both by the feathers of Lugia and Ho-Oh, GS, Gold, and Silver, it all makes sense. But what the heck is it for? Well, to capture and control Celebi, so that the effects of time travel do not wear on the person who travels through time. Also, the GS ball gets destroyed in the manga. That's a bummer. But what do both of these avenues have in common? Clearly, that the ball was made to introduce a storyline involving Celebi that would follow some similar path as either of these stories. How do we officially know that this would be true for the anime as well? Well, thanks to an interview with PokeBeach back in 2008 with Masamitsu Hidaka, the director of the Pokemon anime, up until the Battle Frontier arc of Generation 3, he confirmed in this interview that yes, Celebi was planned to be in relation to the GS ball, with a whole major arc in the show that followed through with some sort of storyline that doesn't just end and disappear like it did. But when the team working on the Pokemon standalone movie movies were working on the next movie, it was decided that it was going to focus on Celebi, time travel, and all that fun stuff, meaning that to fit into continuity, the storyline for the show needed to be scrapped and the secret to the GS ball to just be left as a mystery. And that's how it shall remain, according to him, as they just wrote it out of the show, hoping most people watching would just kind of forget about it and leave it as nothing more than it was. So all of this extensive lore that we got in the manga, this really cool event in the Japanese version of Crystal, is something that never came to fruition in the anime. Well, in a way, I guess it did if you just look at the movie Pokemon Forever, which we'll be speaking about more in depth later in this video anyway, as that film has a lot of parallels to the story in the manga, and possibly the story that would have been written into the anime if it were to progress that way. Sadly, Masamitsu Hidaka would pass away on March 10th, 2022, and I just want to say thanks for making our childhoods fun and our adulthoods youthful. But here's how I see it, since there isn't really anything in the other direction to look at. I feel that this can just be viewed as a responsibility test, and throughout Ash's time having it, he kind of struggles dealing with that, and just doing whatever gym or challenge related thing that captures his attention instead. Also seeming like this GS ball is a burden as much as he seems interested in whatever it is. At first, he puts off going right back to Professor Oak by spending time in the Orange Islands, competing in the competition, then somehow Psyduck gets his hands on it, or really his head, but whatever, right? He made it back to Oak with it in one piece, who then now has to get it back from Team Rocket after they end up taking it, but since Ash's journey then begins to head to Johto, he was tasked with bringing it over to Oak's friend Kurt. But on the way, like I mentioned earlier, a Quagsire steals it after Ash is taking some nice care of it. This feeling of responsibility here has him literally do anything to get that ball back from this Quagsire, but obviously is still annoyed when he can't focus on going to the Azalea gym first over just finishing this errand and delivering the ball. Regardless of the grand reveal being anything but, Ash had to take care of something and make sure he did all that he could in the end to make sure it was safe and ended up being delivered. So I like to see it as, wow, Ash, you did it. Good job, buddy. Sure, is that a lot more lame than having a really cool payoff? Yeah, duh. But hey, it's at least something, okay? Alright, no more GS ball talk unless I feel like it. I've held up continuing on long enough like this side story for Ash getting to the next gym, so let's just get into it. Ash goes to challenge the Azalea Town gym leader now, Bugsy, who is easy to jump into battle mode sending out Spinarak, with Ash sending out his new buddy Cyndaquil. But he's just this little tired thing and he's not too great at pulling off any of his attacks yet, so Ash just recalls him and sends out Chikorita. This time, however, in full knowledge of the typing here. Not needing anyone to tell him he's wrong or he's right, he knows what he's doing, I guess. He's at least aware of what he's doing. And Chikorita has this little love quirk here and is just really happy to see Ash in general. See, I told you it was foreshadowing. Also, she defeats the Spinarak, leading to Bugsy dropping the freshest Season 1 meme of a Metapod, much to everyone's confusion, but this one knows a bit more than just Harden, taking out Chikorita, leaving Ash to send out Pikachu, who dodges what the Metapod has to bring to the battle and ends up knocking it out, leaving a final battle between Pikachu and Scyther, which Scyther gets the upper hand here and Pikachu is knocked out. But it's okay, remember, Ash still has that Cyndaquil who doesn't really know how to battle, but now it's ready to go, and oh baby is it, because this little dude ends up taking out the Scyther. I always believed in you. And so now Ash has won his second gym battle in the Johto League, earning him the Hive badge. Ash then has some fun, swapping in one of his Tauros with his Heracross to take place in the running of the Tauros event, where he uses his and ends up winning. How nice. I love seeing Ash send and swap Pokemon from the lab and spend time with some of them, usually the ones that don't always get that much attention or time to shine. But after this win, he just sends them right back to the lab, as well as keeping Heracross there. But we can't focus on that. We have a reunion to worry about. There's another Pokemon-based event called the Fire and Rescue Grand Prix, where Pokemon show off their firefighting abilities against each other. So you know who shows up? That's right, Captain Aiden and Team Wartortle. Were you expecting someone else? Well, these characters were met in the Orange Islands and are past champions of this competition. But yes, the OG Squirtle squad is there as well, and Squirtle gets excited to see them, and they all seem so happy together, regardless of how nervous the rest of the squad are to compete here without really having a formal leader. When the time calls for it, Ash's Squirtle rejoins the squad to help them out, becoming that leader that they have all been needing to fully get their shells in the game. The team operates so much better having Ash's Squirtle with them. So in between rounds, Ash and Squirtle have a moment to talk. Ash, just having let Charizard go in a very emotionally aggressive way, here has a more reserved conversation with Squirtle, letting him know how much his friends need him and how strong that he's become, giving him the option here, but with a more peaceful and understanding tone, where Squirtle chooses to then go and rejoin the squad, and he gets to show why he's so good at this. When it comes down to the end, it's the Squirtle squad versus Team Wartortle, as both team leaders are fiercely making sure things are running tight on their teams, with the Squirtle squad clutching their win by just over a second. Ash congratulates them and says a final goodbye to his Squirtle, still very choked up but yelling nice sentiments as their distance grows. Wow, so far this season, it's been all about goodbyes, it feels. Sure, we welcome in some new faces, but at this rate, Ash will have no more Pokemon if he just keeps letting them go. Okay, now it's time to replace one water Pokemon for another. Here we get to see another Totodile that Ash and Misty are both after when they each toss a lure ball at it, and one of them lands a catch, but it was obscured to see whose Pokeball it was that actually ended up making the catch. So these two get in a fight over this, but regardless of who did catch it, it'll now be settled over a battle between these two, which is genuinely pretty hyped to see. Both of these strong-headed characters who constantly clash are battling, with Ash's Bulbasaur defeating Poliwag that evolved into a Poliwhirl mid-battle. It was so much fun, but hey, it's good to know here that even though Ash got a Chikorita, he didn't abandon, ditch, or send away his Bulbasaur to do so, like the rest of the great starter reset here. See you later, Charizard. Hello, Cyndaquil. See you later, Squirtle. Hello, Totodile. Yeah, anyway, Ash won the Totodile, which is cool or whatever, but come on, let Misty get something. She's the water main. Give her some main character energy, please. But for more main character energy for Ash, hey, shiny Pokemon are cool, right? Well, how about we find one? Oh look, a shiny Noctowl. Wow, that was easy. I don't know why shiny hunters spend months trying to do this. Has Reversal caught that shiny Feebas yet? I don't know. We deal with Dr. Wiseman being outsmarted by a smaller in size to other Noctowl that is actually pretty smart. Imagine being named Wiseman and being outwised by an owl. He eventually gives up and tells Ash to go for it once it wants to battle Ash. So Pikachu has a tense standoff with this wise Nightbird, but gets a nice hit on him and Ash chucks a Pokeball, capturing the shiny Noctowl. Hey, that's pretty cool. And you know what else is pretty cool? That's where we're gonna end for Season 1 for just the Johto journeys. We still have both Johto League champions and Master Quest to go as we continue throughout the Johto region. But this is where we are going to break from the story and check out the third Pokemon movie, Pokemon the Movie 3, Spell of the Unknown Entei. Wow, what a title. And wow, what a movie. You know what I want in my Pokemon movies? More mature, dark themes that give me something to think about and walk away questioning what matters in life the most and how to deal with trauma. So yay, we have Spell of the Unknown Entei. It takes place right here in the story as a diversion from Ash's main adventure, but there are some definite fun payoffs here for dedicated Pokemon fans. If you went to see the film in theaters though, then good news for you, it came with another Black Star promo card, with this reverse-like Hollow Entei card. I mean, come on, look at this beautiful card. That Ken Sugimori art be hitting. I love this. So this movie is all about Entei and the unknown, but the Entei, well, may not really be Entei. Here at the start of the film, we meet a Pokemon researcher named Spencer Hale and his daughter Molly, whose mom is not around, as they have a nice time together in their mansion as he reads her the story of the powerful legendary beast known as Entei. But then he ends up getting called away to go check out some specific ruins that lead him to be entranced by, then made to disappear by, this unknown dimension. Molly doesn't take this news well and collects the box of these mysterious unknown tiles that were brought back and uses it to kind of bring her family back by spelling out Papa, Mama, and me. This triggers the unknown to reveal themselves as the mansion starts turning into this crystal-like structure for protection. And as she looks at the Entei in this book, missing her father, the unknown merge the two, creating what seems like a real Entei but now having the voice of her father, who is just Dan Green, thanks Yugi, and has this overbearing protection of her and does whatever she wants to do. Whatever her wish is, he does. Ash and the crew get introduced here as they're just passing through town, essentially. Of course, upon seeing this, things seem pretty bad, noting all of the Crystal-esque structures infesting the area, seeing a news crew reporting on what's happening, and at the same time, we learn of the connection that the Ketchums have to the Hales, through, I guess, being friends and through Professor Oak. So Ash's mom and Professor Oak head towards the area in fear of what's happening. They pull up quick, and Ash Ash's mom speaks to him about Spencer working with Professor Oak at one point. Molly and Entei are watching the news as well, and Molly wants a mom figure back in her life, leading Entei to go out and take Ash's mom, hypnotizing her to make her believe that she's Molly's mom and then run off with her. The news footage is making its rounds, even to places where some familiar Pokemon may be, who now learn of the situation and that Ash is now involved, so that's pretty cool. Wonder where that's gonna lead. Ash, without hesitation, now heads towards the structures, using his Pokemon to help scale the crystallization as he needs to go get his mama back, as her trance is starting to kinda wear off. Molly wants a piece of Ash and his friends in Pokemon battle, being excited at this. Once they find a way to sneak into the mansion, they end up going up these special stairs leading to stylized Pokemon battle arenas, where Molly will start to battle with them. Brock takes her challenge first, while Ash and Misty break for the stairs, as Entei turns Molly into an older seeming trainer, who is definitely more ready to battle. And the next stop, the same thing happens where Misty ends up having to face Molly, while Ash continues on some more. During these battle distractions, Ash is able to find his mom, and they try to speak with the real Molly and explain that Ash's mom isn't her mom, and they need to leave to get her to safety from these unknown. But she snaps and yells at them, where the power of the unknown spike around her, as if they are feeding off of her emotions. Entei threatens Ash to leave, but during this refusal, they break out into battling, resulting in Ash being launched out of the mansion high up and begins to freefall. That is, until Ash's Charizard swoops in from out of nowhere and catches them, and then now starts to take on Entei. The battle starts getting more intense. Ash and Entei have been tossing back and forth logic about their perspectives until Entei gets the upper hand and is about to take out Charizard, but Molly tells Entei to stop. She has this breakthrough in knowing what's real and what she needs to grieve different with. As Ash tries to take on the unknown, Entei cherished his time with Molly, offering to help get her out, as he explains that he is just the figment of her imagination, and his limits go as far as her beliefs. She'll always have Entei, just like her dad, in her heart. Everything has begun to revert back to normal now. And hey look, Spencer is okay and back with Molly, along with her mom, and Charizard heads back to the Terrific Valley to train on some more. A solid happy ending that pays off a fun yet brief appearance from Charizard, which this moment was so cool to experience in theaters. This movie's awesome. The conversation that Ash has back and forth with Entei, the power that the unknown feed upon to create this visually beautiful setting with a smaller and more personal story that was interesting enough to keep you engaged the whole time, wrapping up the first Pokemon trilogy in such a unique way. The Pokemon battles were fun. Entei was really awesome, and the inclusion of Ash's mother being a central point to the plot, I think was well done. Ash here seems a lot more serious, definitely selfish about wanting his mom, but like, I get that. And through his growth along with Charizard's growth, it became a fanfare of fulfilled moments with a showcase of Ash's determination and his relationship to Brock and Misty, who want to come along on this mansion heist and end up battling a different version of Molly so Ash could proceed his search and rescue his mom. And if you bought the home video release, you got a different Black Star promo card, this time the Unknown J card, and oh, I remember getting this VHS in my hands at Walmart and telling my mom I need this, that Unknown J is just for me, my name's Jordan, that's Unknown J, this is meant for me.
No, you ain't!
I have to have it. But do you know what this movie could have been? Well, Takeshi Shudo was the chief writer of the original series and the writer of the first movie and the Mewtwo special that I'll speak about soon, the second movie where he helped create Lugia, and for the third movie, the original script that he wrote was wild. It involved exploring the reason the world has Pokemon, what happened to real animals, a bunch of existential questions, all sparked by the finding of a regular Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil. And then it would be brought back to life and go on this dino rampage throughout the regions. Clearly, the Pokemon powers that be didn't really like this idea, and the film would eventually become the movie we know it as today. Takeshi was an incredible talent and really helped bring some fun concepts to Pokemon when working on the franchise, being crucial to things like the iconic Team Rocket motto, as well as creating Lugia, like I mentioned, who is one of my favorites. He sadly passed away on October 29th, 2010, and thank you for creating something my mom and I have bonded over for the majority of my life. As a side note, are we ever going to talk about the Pikachu short before the movie starts featuring the Pichu Bros, where Ash has this big celebration for being a full year since he and Pikachu met, but somehow he's still 10 and he has been for forever? I'll give you guys a brief break to think about that.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Fringe!
Well, the journey continues on, as we now enter Pokemon Johto League Champions, as Ash, Misty, and Brock have made their way to Goldenrod City in hopes of Ash facing off against the gym leader there. Sadly, the gym is closed and they have to wait until the next day for Ash to battle. The group then runs into Whitney and her Clefairy, and get tangled up in some Team Rocket drama that results in them working together to help one another. At the end, she admits to wanting to battle Ash, because he seems like a strong and competent opponent, which Ash, of course, is like, hey, maybe later, I'm trying to get prepared for my battle with the gym leader tomorrow, as Whitney then reveals herself as the gym leader. Man, Ash just knows how to run into gym leaders and not know that they're gym leaders, huh? They head to the gym and commence battle, with Ash taking the lead, having his Cyndaquil defeat her Nidorina, having her now send out Clefairy, who she's a little too overprotective of, and calls her back at the slightest problem. Things are looking pretty good for Ash here, but if you played the games, you know Whitney still has an ace up her sleeves. Well, she's not wearing sleeves, but the point still stands. Miltank is now sent out, and they aren't called Tank for no reason, literally plowing through Ash's Pokemon with Rollout, and out goes Cyndaquil. Then next goes Totodile, and finally Pikachu, resulting in Ash losing the gym battle and not earning a badge this day. After this intense battle, Ash's Pokemon are healing up, and Whitney shows off some nice hospitality to the group on her farm, with a bunch of other Miltank there just hanging out. When Team Rocket attacks, Ash gets to see this Rollout attack some more and even build up some new battle strategy because of it, which is nice to see Ash learning and applying this knowledge to become a smarter and overall better trainer. Ash and Whitney are set to battle once again. While Whitney takes out Cyndaquil fairly quick, his Totodile carves some trenches into the floor with the force of his water, making the Rollout attack harder to navigate. Totodile still gets defeated, but now Pikachu and his fast speed is able to help Miltank hit these trenches, where Pikachu hides and waits for Miltank to roll over one as he attacks from underneath, sending Miltank flying as now he shoots a Thunder Shock that ends up defeating the Miltank. Now, while this is exciting, this was only for a battle, not a redo of the gym battle itself, but she ends up giving Ash the plain badge on the technicality of him defeating her top Pokemon, making him worthy of the badge. Sure, okay, at least he wasn't just handed it for no reason. So no time to waste, on to the next gym, right? But along this way, we meet up with Casey again, as Ash enters a bug catching contest at the park. She seems a lot more confident in herself, and has had some more time to work on her skills as a Pokemon trainer. At one point though, she's just like Ash in the beginning of his journey, putting too much pressure on her Chikorita, especially facing off against a really tough Scyther. Ash jumps in to save them and let her get her Chikorita out of there, as he berates her about being this bad and inconsiderate of a trainer, much like he was if we look back to when Metapod was stolen by Beedrill early on in the original series. Her Chikorita has had enough and won't listen to her anymore after her constant pushing, and she realizes her competitive nature overshadowed her caring for Chikorita. So she apologizes and the two make up and all is fine, helping her grow again in a similar way that Ash had to, where he had to go through the same thing with that Metapod as he was originally yelled at by the Samurai Kid. Here's another parallel. Remember the original Beedrill swarm that took Ash's Metapod? Well, here they run into another Beedrill swarm, but this time Ash ends up catching a Beedrill, and to me symbolizing his growth, and now being prepared under pressure, overcoming those lingering emotions from this originally happening. Casey and Chikorita's growth is also symbolized here as well when dealing with Team Rocket, as then Chikorita now evolves into a Bayleaf. At the end of the contest, Ash's Beedrill catch nets him the win, and his prize is a Sunstone, which is another evolution stone in the Pokemon world that helps evolve certain Pokemon, as this will come into play another time. But Ash ends up giving Casey his Beedrill. Since she's always bumping Wiz Khalifa and loves black and yellow striped Pokemon, it helps build up her confidence as a trainer even more. It's a cute moment for these two who are very similar in many ways, but both have their own long journeys ahead of them. There is another contest that Ash takes part in, this time with Misty, as it revolves around catching Seaking. And they both do, but unlike the bug contest, they aren't allowed to keep the catch. But Misty here really takes the lead in this story, facing off against this butthead of a character, Andreas, who belittles and makes fun of Misty and her Poliwhirl while he has a Poliwrath. Their tension heats up as they both catch a Seaking weighing the same, so now they must battle to determine the winner. Ash here gets to learn that certain typings can change to allow learning certain moves that the base typing of that Pokemon may not be able to learn, as the Poliwrath here knows fighting type moves alongside of its water typing. Misty and her Poliwhirl end up winning this battle in the end, resulting in a trophy and a bunch of chocolate bars for her to enjoy and share, as Ash somehow gets left out of having any. But hey, at least that jerk Andreas apologizes to Misty for the awful things he said to her and congratulates her on winning. A happy ending for all, except for Ash for not getting some chocolate. Later, they also come across Gary in the middle of a battle where we see his Eevee has now evolved into one of the 2 new evolutions for the 2nd generation, Umbreon, as he is fighting against an Alakazam. The battle seems pretty intense, but we really get to see just how good Gary is when it comes to battling, ultimately defeating the Alakazam, and Gary wins. Ash, of course, wants a piece of this, but Gary declines fighting him as Gary feels there is no current challenge there when it comes to Ash and his Pokemon right this second. Gary walks away, leaving Ash only more fired up to beat him at some point. In a struggle now with Team Rocket where Gary gets involved when the power is out at places like the Pokemon Center, which is not good, and the generator at the power plant needs to be started up again. After all of this Team Rocket hoopla. So Pikachu uses a powerful Thunder Shock to bring it back to life, where Gary sees how Ash and his Pokemon handled Team Rocket and work together in a situation like this and is pretty impressed with him, mentioning that he is getting better and stronger every day, and just maybe when they next meet, he may be the one challenging Ash to a battle first. The moment of respect represented here is so wholesome. While he started to earn Gary's respect towards the end of the original and Orange Island seasons, here it's a fully realized mutual level of respect that Ash feels like he's truly earned, as the two both go on their own paths to cross each other's again soon. Ash also gets in another contest tournament of sorts called the Grass Tournament. James enters with his victory bell, Meowth pretends to be a Sunflora for Jessie, all their cover is blown. Ash ends up losing in the final round, remembering that in the end, winning isn't everything, as he learns a nice lesson in humility. Just having a sense of pride and power in a battle is not enough when a trainer needs more than just those things to truly win. But before we go on and continue the journey to the next gym battle, Ash and friends find themselves in some sort of sequel. Mewtwo returns. Yes, you heard that right. The movie or special that contains this infamous scene.
I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan.
Ah, a true classic. Not being considered a full movie, but rather a special that takes place right here in the Johto region. Mewtwo Returns would tie directly back to the first Pokemon movie which we spoke about in part 1. At the end of the story in the movie, Mewtwo, voiced by Dan Green, thanks Yugi, wanted to seek a better place of living for himself and the cloned Pokemon, a safe area that is out of the way from humans and especially those like Giovanni who took away Mewtwo's free will. Here on the mountaintop that acts as an impossible to access oasis that Mewtwo and his clones can live in peace as he oversees their protection. But Giovanni is still on the hunt to get Mewtwo back, locating where he is and now leading his full force in that direction. Ash, Misty, and Brock happen to be near the area and checking out the beautiful landscapes along their path before getting stuck in a nearby lodge when the weather gets extremely bad, as we see how Mewtwo not only protects the clone Pokemon, but for some reason saves a whole bus full of people trapped in a storm and in danger, and Mewtwo discusses why he does this, whether it be from compassion for every living being to somehow making sure that the clones are always protected, and not sure the real reason of these two options for why he did so, but mentioning that there is no way he could ever feel compassion for humans. Our group team up with Luna, a Pokemon habitat researcher and someone who spends their time helping tourists in the area. Two others show up, a famous researcher named Cullen who is accompanied by a girl named Domino, as Team Rocket interrupts them and ends up taking Pikachu, but their blimp ends up getting swept up in some bad wind, as now the others must follow them up scaling the mountain and end up now getting hooked onto their balloon, bringing them all to the top of the island. And while floating about there, this shifty Domino character pulls out some binoculars and scans Mewtwo for Giovanni, as she is really working for Team Rocket. So now the greater Team Rocket's assault begins as Domino strands the Team Rocket trio and our heroes. Clone Pikachu ends up finding and talking to Pikachu as if he's known him before, but Pikachu has no memory of this. Remember, all their memories at the end of the first movie were all wiped by Mewtwo. Mewtwo then actually shows up to defuse the situation between the Pikachu, as James from Team Rocket here says what everyone is thinking.
This is like the sequel to a movie I missed.
The clone Pokemon and Mewtwo help Team Rocket understand their plight. Pikachu is with Team Rocket and the clones, as Ash and the others look for them. Mewtwo prepares on what to do as Giovanni and the Team Rocket brigade come flying in, struggling to figure out what balance is more important for his care of the clone Pokemon, their safety or their freedom. We also see baby Pokemon that are fully evolved Pokemon aiding in the whole size of Pokemon debate. And can Pokemon be born at a certain evolution stage or evolve at any age despite stuff like size? Well, no time to ponder this. It's probably the pure water here. That's it. Or the clone aspect. What does it mean to be alive? You know, that whole fun topic. Listen, it's 4 a.m. when I'm writing this. Give me a break. But Giovanni comes in and starts catching all of the clone clone Pokemon as Mewtwo has a face-to-face with him. He decides that the clone Pokemon have a right to choose where and how they live, not having to live in fear and hide from Giovanni. So he gives himself up to keep the others safe, but engages in a battle of will to not let Giovanni warp his mind with his devices. Mewtwo, though, seems to recognize Ash without mentioning what had happened before. Mewtwo uses all of his strength to break the machine, but is now completely weakened. So all of the trainers and every Pokemon in the area end up holding off Giovanni as long as they can, as Ash tries to help Mewtwo to get him to the Purity Spring Water, telling Mewtwo that he is one of a kind, and is of course worth helping. And then he just chucks him in the water. Mewtwo emerges with a sense of belonging, ready to fight back against Giovanni, shooting a powerful beam into the sky covering the area. And in the end, instead of a direct battle, Mewtwo is gone, and so is the spring. But really, they are all now inside of the mountain, spring and all. Ash and friends, as well as the Team Rocket trio we know and love, are there too. And they all convince Mewtwo to allow them to remember what happened here, and to keep safe the area for all the Pokemon that live there, as Mewtwo and the clones leave the area, with all of the bad guys having their memories wiped. Later on, Mewtwo speaks to Ash through time and space, saying that he will remember Ash always. I just love Mewtwo's poetic way of speaking, feeling so philosophical as it ponders the meaning of its existence and place in this world. Honestly, this special is just fantastic. It's always been a personal little favorite of mine. We build a nice conversation about belonging, as well as some preservation of nature mixed in with some really cool visuals. It's just a fun time and a worthy epilogue to the first movie, if you want to look at it that way. Plus, Mewtwo must have filled Ash in on some of the stuff that happened the last time they met, based on Ash saying that now they can remember this time, implying that there was another time where they don't remember. So Ash may have learned that he freaking died, or turned to stone, however you want to classify it. Anyway, back to the regular show. Okay, so after that fun diversion, we are back in Johto League Champions, where Ash and the group finally arrive in Ecruteak City, where there is a lot of lore to learn and a gym battle to be had. The trio get tricked into thinking that this other building was the gym, but it wasn't. Where inside, a fire breaks out, setting them all in a panic before they realize that it isn't real, and Ash's Noctowl helps reveal that all the fun trickster ghost Pokemon like we saw in the original series before the Sabrina fight were casting illusions to ward them off from their home, where this guy reveals to them that this is the Burned Tower, and also that his name is Morty and he's the gym leader. Convenient. Ash here learns about Ho-Oh and realizes that this was the Pokemon he saw on the first day of his journey in the original episode of Pokemon. We learn that the tower originally burned down some hundreds of years ago, which can also be tied into Ho-Oh resurrecting perished Pokemon, turning them into the legendary dogs. During a battle with Team Rocket, Ash sees just how powerful Morty's Gengar is, and now has the night to prepare mentally for this battle the next day. We see Ash spend time pondering over strategies where he gets some advice from a pretty surprising person, this city's Nurse Joy, suggesting he should use his Noctowl in the fight. He may just come in handy. Noctowl's foresight helps reveal the ghost Pokemon when they aren't visible, which is what happen when the battle starts, having used the move on Ghastly before recalling him, making it easier for, no, not Pikachu, he loses, but for Cyndaquil to take out the Ghastly. Next, Haunter comes out and ends up taking out Cyndaquil, leaving Ash with only his Noctowl and still 2 Pokemon to defeat. Noctowl's battle with Haunter isn't too tough, but the final battle with Gengar is pretty intense, resulting in some pretty close calls, but Noctowl ends up the victor after a powerful tackle, with Ash now winning his 4th badge, the Fog Badge, a well-fought and well-earned one for sure. During their next leg of the trip, they run into an old friend, Todd. Yes, Mr. Snap himself is back. Since his last anime appearance 137 episodes ago, Todd is after a photo of one of the legendary birds Articuno, but their adventure gets sidetracked by a frozen sunkern that requires some attention, and it is luckily brought to the Sunflora Lodge, where this year would be their 50th anniversary, where every year the Sunflora come, they get a nice photo together with the older couple who run the place. Todd wants to take the photo for them for the 50th anniversary, but the Sunflora aren't coming around because of the weather. So when the couple was going to just settle with a small photo with the Sunkern instead, Ash uses his Sunstone that he won a little while back to help the Sunkern become a Sunflora. And because of this, Sunflora is able to call in all of the other Sunflora to be a part of this 50th anniversary photo, and it's just a sweet little story before the group, now featuring Todd, head literally up a dangerous snowy mountain in a blizzard to get a glimpse of this legendary bird. And luckily, they do run into into Articuno, who screeches to save Ash from falling off a cliff. Things are great as Todd gets ready for the photo, but Team Rocket attacks the bird, but who cares because it's Articuno, and it easily takes them out. Todd is now able to get a glamorous photo of the bird and decides to stay there for more photo opportunities as our main trio say goodbye to Todd once again as they now continue on to the next gym. But Ash, he just loves getting sidetracked into random contests or competitions, as now he wants to enter a Pokemon Sumo competition, swapping out his Noctowl for a Snorlax, so Professor Oak can now study a shiny Pokemon up close. And Ash, well, he has a Snorlax for this competition now, so that should be fun. And somehow, because Ash is Ash, he makes it to the final round where his Snorlax has to face off against this powerful Fraligator. But after a pretty rough bout, Snorlax ends up winning and Ash receives a couple of things, like a King's Rock, another random evolution item that he personally will have no need for, but will find some use for later, as well as a year's worth of Pokemon food that Snorlax instantly eats in seconds and then goes to sleep. Yeah, that sounds about right. Ash then spends some time with Chikorita. We encounter an Electabuzz, and where's Casey when you need her? But in these struggles, Ash now faces Team Rocket's Pokemon, with Chikorita evolving into a Bayleaf, saving the day, finding the strength to do so from her love of Ash. Following this though, Bayleaf's larger size hurts Ash when jumping onto him with joy, much different from when she was a small Chikorita, so Ash kinda gets scared and makes a comment about her staying away from him, upsetting Bayleaf, who then runs off in sadness, overthinking that Ash doesn't care for her anymore. But she's just not aware of her size now, and didn't know it was hurting him. But by the end of this, Ash learns to be more considerate towards Bayleaf since it was never meant in malice, and Bayleaf finds a more fitting way to show her affection towards him and has learned more self-control instead of being more impulsive like she was. Well, maybe. She might still have some old tendencies. We also get to meet some Generation 3 Pokemon a bit earlier than they would premiere. Well, one new species that is, and that is Kecleon, here with a green one and then a purple one, which isn't a shiny, but is shown to just be a special in-color Kecleon that appears here in the anime and in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. And I love when Pokemon does random previews of upcoming Pokemon with the series before they premiere, and we will see more of that later on too. Ash and the crew make it to Olivine City, meeting the gym leader of the city, getting right into the battle, but as it rages on, the real gym leader, Jasmine, appears, claiming that this was her apprentice, and this match does not count for a real battle with a gym leader, so now Ash has to deal with Jasmine, who has a sick Ampharos that she needs to attend to, and has to have her apprentice head across the waters to an island that has Seanwood City to get medicine and come back. While Ash can't battle her now because of this, Ash decides to head to the island as well, knowing that there is a gym there that he can face in the meantime. And once they get there, Ash meets with the spirit-filled, tough-built Chuck, who happens to be the gym leader. Again, convenient. When the battle starts, Chuck sends out a Poliwrath and Ash uses his Pikachu, but the strength of the Poliwrath knocks out Pikachu pretty quickly, with Ash now sending out Bayleaf, who then knocks out the Poliwrath in return, showing off an impressive strategy from Ash to do so. Where next, Machoke is sent out and Ash needs to find a good strategy to overcome this again. And after a really tough battle of strength and resilience, Bayleaf knocks out the Machoke, and that's the end of the gym battle, giving Ash his 5th badge, the Storm Badge, thus bringing us to the end of the Johto League Champion season of the anime, getting us prepared for the finale of the Johto region in Master Quest. But before we do so, we have another movie to go over that takes place right around this time as well. It is time to speak about a fantastic entry into the Pokemon film series, and the reason the GS Ball was rendered useless in the anime. Pokemon Forever Celebi, the voice of the forest. And don't worry, there were Black Star promo cards here too, Celebi for the theatrical version, and Suicune for the home video release. Here we start in the past, 40 years before where we are at in the show's story, where a kid named Sam is walking in the woods and gets some bread from a woman there, offering him a warning of some powerful Pokemon looming in the woods, where he eventually runs into a Celebi, who is on the run from a Pokemon poacher, as Celebi cries out, bringing itself into the future 40 years along with Sam. Where now in the future we see that same poacher, who has now aged greatly, and now we also get to meet an even more evil dude, aka the Iron Masked Marauder, aka an elite Team Rocket member, aka a direct parallel to the GS Ball story origins in the manga in many ways, aka Dan Green. Thanks, Yugi. Ash and the gang happen to be in the area where they end up seeing Suicune again, but Ash acts as if this is the first time he's ever seen this Pokemon. They end up finding Sam, who is passed out, as now this older lady recognizes Sam as she was the young lady who in the past gave him the bread. Sam seems kind of phased, but like not too worried, more concerned about making sure Celebi is okay, rather than whatever family he may have back 40 some years ago. But hey, it's whatever. They find Celebi and it starts fighting them back because it's scared, but soon Celebi understands that Ash and Sam are friendly and gives in to their help. Jesse and James get into the mix of things because, of course they do, they have to, they always have to. But this guy shows up with his overpowered Pokemon thanks to his dark balls that allow any Pokemon caught to instantly become their highest level, and also evil to do his bidding and stuff like that. I mean, just look at this Tyranitar. It's so sad and scared, and then boom, it's menacing. What's cool is we do get to see a Pokeball from 40 years ago, but what's funny is since we have this ancient ball nowadays thanks to Pokemon Legends Arceus, a game that takes place further in Pokemon's past, with a ball that seems just way more efficient, but whatever, who could have known at this point? The other Pokemon of the forest seem extra protective over Celebi, helping guide them to a lake for it to be baptized, bathed in, as Celebi begins soaking in the energy from the Lake of Light, or the Lake of Radiation because Celebi's literally glowing. Sam eventually has the thought of his mom probably worried sick about him. I mean, maybe in like a timeline where, he never goes back, then sure, that's pretty worrisome. Time travel's confusing. Ash, Sam, Pikachu, and Celebi watch the sunrise together, but their nice times later turn into a battle against the Marauder, who now captures the Celebi in a dark ball. The forest Pokemon are shown to start getting upset as Ash tries to rescue Celebi now with them, but when Celebi is released from the ball, it's literally a zombie of its former self, being extremely powerful, beginning to turn into this giant CGI natural disaster that will destroy everything in sight. But Suicune is here, baby, running down some 3D rocks and is going to do something about this. The Marauder, though, gets too power happy with claiming to have the most powerful Pokemon in the whole world. Giovanni should bow down to him, and he could take over the world with this type of power. We all know that speeches like these from bad guys tend to happen before they literally get defeated, which is exactly what's gonna happen as Suicune now comes in to save Ash and Sam, as now they fight back against the destruction of the forest, working to get through to the Celebi and snap them out of this trance that they're in, finally severing the bond as they literally rip Celebi free from its mental hold inside of this giant beast, helping it remember who it finally is, flying Ash and Sam out to safety before being extremely drained, turning into a literal dried up tiny little onion. Suicune repurifies the Lake of Life from the damage done as Celebi is placed back into the waters, hoping to be brought back to life, but nothing is working. Everyone and all of the Pokemon in the forest are brought to tears, but then suddenly a beam comes from the sky, revealing a ton of Celebi all throughout time appearing, angelically bringing Celebi into the sky, restoring it back to full health, and with it, the health of the forest is safe and protected once more in a joyous fly around, until the Marauder comes from nowhere and grabs Celebi and takes off to the skies. But Ash holds on to him with Pikachu and ends up shocking him out of the sky, as now they are flown down by Celebi safely back on the ground. Celebi takes Sam back to the past as they say their goodbyes as the movie ends, and gosh darn it, why are these Pokemon movies so dang good? Another absolute classic with a great story, awesome characters, and when you think it couldn't get any better or have any deeper meaning, we then learn that Sam from the past was Professor Oak the whole time. So the professor has always had this connection to Ash even from when he was a kid, a secret he keeps private to himself. What the actual heck is going on? While this is clearly a story partially meant for the GS Ball storyline, I do like how it was used here, and if this is the consolation prize for not having the other story in the anime, then I guess I'm fine with that. We should just digest this film as the great treat it was as we now hop into the final season of the Johto region.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Kabuto!
Welcome to the start of the end, Master Quest, our final stretch of episodes in the Johto region. We start off with something really cool as well. Out in the Whirl Islands, where deadly whirlpools are constantly a problem, the group end up fighting being pulled into a whirlpool, and once safe, a very specific silhouette swims under them, making a familiar noise to Pokemon fans as we can clearly tell that it was a Lugia that had swam by. As after this, some other Pokemon come up to them and bring them to safety on Professor Elm, who is on a boat. We also get to learn about the Whirl Cup, a smaller in size battle tournament for water Pokemon that only happens every 3 years. And what great timing, it happens to be happening this year. So why not jump into another side quest? And as we build up to this and spend some time looking for some more water Pokemon, and Misty worrying about that more so, we meet a character named Luca, who is someone who spends time in the island area looking for the Silverwing, a feather that relates to Lugia, which here we can kind of see the remnants of the GS Ball storyline being reworked. Yes, sorry to bring up the GS Ball again, again, but I probably will bring it up another time here soon, so just wait. Next, our group reaches where the World Cup tournament will be. Ash and Misty both enter, with both of them being sent to different stadiums, as they both need to do some qualifying matches in order to be allowed into the 64 official contestants for the tournament. Ash and Misty both win their first and second matches to qualify them pretty easily, and now they await the start of the real tournament. Ash sends his Bayleaf to the lab so he can use his Kingler, but Bayleaf doesn't handle this too well, crying out for not being with Ash, but this will only be temporary. Ash has an exciting match using his Totodile against a Kingdra, where he ends up winning and advancing forward. In between this win and the next day for more battles, Ash has a moment with Misty, where they are both up in the middle of the night in anticipation for the next round, contrasting them earlier in the episode arguing with each other. It's always nice to get a more calm moment between the two. Misty and her Corsola end up battling against a Quillfish, where Misty finds a nice rhythm and battle strategy with her newer Pokemon to ultimately clutch a win in the end and move on to the next round. Both Ash and Misty celebrate with one another for their wins, but this all comes to an abrupt halt when the matchups for the next rounds get posted, showing that they now will have to face each other in a higher stakes battle, friend versus friend with no holding back. Now the two face off against each other. Ash sends out his Totodile and Misty uses her Poliwhirl. The battle is pretty fierce, but Misty is able to get the upper hand with her Poliwhirl, putting hands on Totodile, knocking it out. Ash then sends out his Kingler, and they don't name him Kingler for nothing, as he shows his incredible strength and takes out Poliwhirl. Misty was going to send out her Corsola, but Psyduck comes popping out instead, which really makes an embarrassing statement to the crowd and for her confidence in the match. But miracles do happen, and somehow, despite everyone not taking Psyduck too serious, except for Real Breaking Nate, Psyduck ends up defeating Kingler, with Misty winning the match and moving on, while Ash would now be knocked out of the tournament. This is the first time Misty had ever beat Ash in a match. It's a really big deal for her. Ash sends back his Kingler to get Bayleaf, who is literally begging to come back, and at the end of the day, Ash is still supportive of Misty as she moves on to fight in the next day's battle against an opponent named Trinity that ends up defeating her, as Trinity would go on from there to then be interrupted by Team Rocket. Ash, Misty, Trinity, and this other dude who she was battling all work together to stop them. After this, Trinity ends up losing to this guy, but they all just end up celebrating the fun that they had in the tournament, sharing a high level of respect for each other and all the skills that they have with their Pokemon. Now, resuming their exploration of these multiple islands, the group runs across Sparky, the Pikachu that belonged to Richie, the trainer Ash lost to in the Indigo League, who he made a promise with at the end as they went their separate ways. Then Richie comes around as well and they reunite, with him being here in search of the mysterious Pokemon, the same one Ash and the group had swim under them and has a relation to the Silver Wing. We meet Oliver, who has a secret Pokemon friend under the water, who goes by the name Silver, who he is trying to hide the existence of when others are looking for it. Oliver's secret is that Silver is actually this little Lugia, which brings on more of the conversation of legendary Pokemon and there being more than one of them. And I guess same thing with Mystical. Have you seen all those Celebies? But regardless, the real thing here is the name Silver, the GS ball, gold and silver, made from a Rainbow Wing and Silver Wing. You know, lots to think about here. Sorry, I'll hold back on that now. For now, we need to focus on this dude here, Dr. Namba, who is a Team Rocket scientist and is after the baby Lugia, with returning Team Rocket characters Butch and Cassidy, the underrated and sometimes overhated Team Rocket duo. They try to swoop in and capture the little Lugia and leave, but all of them, including Luca, who shows back up, all stop this from happening. Oliver admits to the group that he was just trying to protect this little Lugia as it was too young to fly, or really defend itself at all yet. But then Mama Lugia appears, viscerally angry at everything going on, as our heroes do what they can to get it to understand what really happened, and then Lugia, calms down a bit. The two Lugia go back together in the ocean in peace, they swim, it's nice. But then later on in this episode, Team Rocket plans another attempt to get the little Lugia, where this time they succeed in doing such. Parrot Lugia doesn't take this well, causing an emotional rampage, stirring up a storm in a panic. Ash, Richie, and Luca all head through this storm, dodging the attacks from Lugia to get through to them that they are there to help get Lugia back. Ash knows his way around how to communicate with a Lugia. We all saw the second movie. So eventually Lugia calms down a bit and just disappears. But then Dr. Namba sets a trap using the baby Lugia to trick the adult Lugia to come after it so they can also capture the big Lugia, living the collection dude from the second movie's fantasy. Now what are our heroes supposed to do? Both Lugias are captured. We are facing a much more powerful faction of Team Rocket that isn't just Jesse and James. Ash, Richie, Misty, and Brock are all now captured and in the base that has gone back under the water. Oliver then swims down there with his lantern and breaks in with Jesse and James, who are trying to free Lugia as well. They just, they don't like Butch and Cassidy. So this giant battle breaks out in the base. Pokemon are throwing attacks everywhere. Jesse and James are fighting Butch and Cassidy. Ash and Richie are taking on the Doctor, and the base is rising back up from the sea to make sure that they all don't get stuck under the water from all the damages to the base, mostly thanks to the freed parent Lugia going Ludicrous, and eventually Silver is freed, so now the base just falls apart. Lugia protects them from all the falling parts as they make their way out, and it explodes. So now we get to see a nice goodbye to the Lugias. Richie decides to stick around the area some more, and Ash and the others continue back on their journey. Just a fun little Lugia set of episodes there. I love them. While I like that the Johto series brings back some fun characters here and there, was this at all a worthwhile return for Richie? If we take him and his part out, does it really change what happens here? Maybe only by a percentage, but regardless, I guess it's still nice to see him around. It does help make the world feel lived in, and that these other characters are off doing stuff, and we may just run into these people again whenever. But now back on track for earning a badge, Ash returns to Olivine City to face Jasmine, for real this time, as now her Ampharos should be fully healed up after that little arc with the Whirl Islands. But it doesn't matter because she won't use the Ampharos. And she's not here for an easy fight. She plans on giving Ash her all, with Magnemite going against Pikachu in the first matchup, with Pikachu getting the best of Magnemite, where she now sends out a Steelix, who is too powerful, easily taking out the Pikachu. Trying to deal with a type advantage, Ash sends out Cyndaquil, who puts up a strong fight against Steelix, and on the brink of defeat, is able to let out a massive flamethrower, causing a fire vortex when combining with Steelix's Sandstorm that ends up draining Steelix completely, causing it to faint, giving Ash the win and the mineral badge. Just look at little Cyndaquil go! Ash certainly has learned a lot as a trainer, and as a result, even his smaller and more unassuming Pokemon put up strong fights and some David vs. Goliath moments to still pull off a surprising victory. But remember earlier when I mentioned that there is still time for Ash to ditch the final one of his original 3 starters? Well, it's time to say bye-bye to Bulbasaur. Well, it's not as bad. He just sends him back to Professor Oak, who ends up needing him around to help keep the peace and the place in order, with Bulbasaur being the best choice to help around. Through a series of events that require Bulbasaur as a necessity there, both him and Ash agree that this is where he needs to be right now, leaving Ash's current party, but at least still right there when he needs them, I guess. But now back in Ecruteak, the crystal bells within the tower were stolen, resulting in chaos starting to happen, with the balance of everything feeling a little off with Pokemon behavior. Ash fully learns about how Ho-Oh created the 3 legendary beasts from the burnt down tower to maintain peace, with one of thunder being Raikou, one of volcanoes being Entei, and one of the north wind being Suicune. Eventually they are able to track the bells back to Team Rocket, and Jessie has apparently broken one. After a struggle with all the mad Pokemon around, Suicune ends up showing up, allowing the others to make their way back to the city, and now with a rainbow in the sky, hoping one day to see Ho-Oh's return, which would be known to this town because the bells chime for Ho-Oh when it's around. Soon after, Ash crosses paths with Gary again, but rather than battle, there is an extreme Pokemon race where the trainer holds on to the Pokemon as they ride a skateboard, Gary using his Arcanine to pull him, while Ash trusts Bayleaf for this, and that was a good idea, because at the end of the race, it's Ash and Bayleaf who end up winning and receiving this Poké-Egg. Also, this resulted in Ash beating Gary at something that, sure, Gary is first annoyed at with this loss, but you can tell he's kind of proud of Ash, giving him some congrats before moving on. Now Ash has this egg, and oh look, it's ready to hatch. Hey, it's a Phanpy, the pre-evolution of Donphan, and Ash tries to build some sort of connection with it, as this newborn isn't just jumping into a Pokeball, and ends up causing a chase to get in that now involves Team Rocket and Ash, especially for him to learn building trust with this Pokemon, rather than just expecting it, since imprinting here was different from when Misty got Togepi. Ash saves the Phanpy at one point, and then they work together to take out Team Rocket, and the two of them find their special bond as trainer and Pokemon. The group now reaches Lake Rage, and we all know why this lake is so famous, right? Well, it contains a very special and powerful shiny red Gyarados. We also get to meet Lance, a Pokemon League champion that is here with his Dragonite doing some investigation on Team Rocket, worried about the well-being of Pokemon being part of the G-Men. This Gyarados was the result of Team Rocket experimenting on forced evolution, and so for the compassion of Pokemon, Ash and friends join Lance in his efforts to take out the device they made that does this. Ash fights to defend Gyarados from full-on capture as it was getting more and more weakened and beat down, but the rage continues building ring, now shifting from the lake and heading towards Mahogany Town, where this random dude has a dugong that stops Gyarados' travels, and Lance ends up in a battle with it to stop its anger, showing everyone how fast and powerful his Dragonite is, taking out the Gyarados and capturing it, with that being the only proper response to save everyone, and by extension, save the Gyarados right then and there. They all part ways, and hey, that random dude we saw? Well, he's the gym leader in Mahogany Town, and he thinks Ash is a weaker trainer for him having these more emotionally charged bonds with them, not really giving him the time of day until letting him battle his dugong. If he wins this unofficial battle, then he will be granted an official gym battle with him. Ash here loses, and while he may have a good heart, Pryce thinks that he is blinded by this to come up with better battle strategies to actually win, and now he will no longer get his gym battle. From here, thanks to Team Rocket, Pryce and Ash fall into some caverns, as we learn from both Pryce and through this character of Sheila speaking to Brock and Misty, that Pryce is so hardened and cold as a trainer from once being like Ash, really caring about his Pokemon. We then hear about his old Poliwhirl that just left after a battle where both of them were badly burned by a Magmar. Poliwhirl disappearing after he would have protected it as much as he could, thus hurting himself worse from the burn, breaking this feeling of Pokemon being considered friends or having a strong connection to them outside of strength and discipline for battle. But during their time in these caves, they come across the same Poliwhirl, now frozen in ice, who didn't run away, but was looking for herbs to help heal the burn, but was stuck and frozen in time ever since. This breaks Pryce, feeling like he was the one who gave up on Poliwhirl. Ash helps melt the ice to free the Poliwhirl, and Pryce has it rest to restore its energy to get it out of the caves. After they are out, he is grateful to Ash and gives him the opportunity to battle him the next day. Now Pryce is shown to be more compassionate to Pokemon, spending time taking care of his Poliwhirl before the battle starts. At first, it's Dugong versus Cyndaquil, as Pryce is impressed at Ash's skills and not expecting the outcome of Dugong being defeated. He then sends out his reunited Poliwhirl that takes out Cyndaquil. No more burns for this guy. Then Pikachu comes out and the battle is really tough. Pikachu takes quite the beating, but Ash doesn't give up, especially when Pryce tries to convince him to. Pikachu ends up fighting all that he can, but Pryce ends up forfeiting the match, which at first upsets and angers Ash as he is robbed of the full battle. But it's not for any other reason than knowing when to pull back and take care of his Pokemon, knowing not to push Poliwhirl past its limits any further, giving Ash the win for how great he did in battle. Ash accepts this response, he gets the Glacier badge, and I'm a little bit conflicted here as he didn't really win it, but like, he did really want to win the battle. And at least he's been really solid in earning his badges here in Johto, so I'll let it slide for now. Also, Ash gets turned into a Pikachu after this. I just like seeing this little Ash Pikachu, it's really funny for some reason. And remember that King's Rock Ash won a bit ago? Well, Misty's Poliwhirl ends up with it and evolves into a Politoed, the newer introduced Generation 2 evolution option instead of a Poliwrath. Eventually, they all nearly reach Blackthorn City, as they run into Claire, the gym leader, who gets to have a moment of speaking about the red Gyarados with them, talking about Lance as we see some Pokemon similarities between him and Claire, especially when her Dratini evolves into a Dragonair, being now the evolution before a Dragonite. These two train together and have some sort of bond between them, and after a nice day of the usual affair of things, the two get ready for a battle, as this would be the 8th and final badge Ash would need to complete all of the Johto gyms. Claire starts off with Kingdra, with Ash sending out Pikachu. When Pikachu's attacks aren't doing enough, he sends out Noctowl instead, but this battle would be interrupted by Team Rocket. That's annoying. It only happens all the time. But at least we get to see a Wynot, the pre-evolution of Wobbuffet, that wasn't introduced until Generation 3, so once again, another fun add-on of a future Pokemon sprinkled in there for good measure. Soon, Charizard, Liza, and Charla all come around as Charizard shows a lot of love to Ash, excited to be reunited with him for now. With this whole kerfuffle over the Dragon Fang being stolen from the Dragon's Holy Land by Team Rocket really being this intense and pretty big segue mid-gym battle. Charizard tangles with an enraged Dragonite, and in the end, Dragonite was calmed down, and it is sad to see all the damage caused at her expense, but they get the Dragon Fang back from Team Rocket and everything's all good. So now it's time for the rematch. Ash sends out his Snorlax that ends up putting out a strong defense against Kingdra, rather than trying to catch up with its speed. Snorlax was able to wear out the Kingdra, leaving it open for a Snorlax to hit it with a giant ice punch, taking it out. Here, Gyarados then comes out and breaks Snorlax down easily, but Ash's initial strategy was good here, and pretty smart based on what he learned from their previous partial match. Now Pikachu heads out to battle, and Pikachu's speed and perseverance end up with him knocking out the Gyarados. So now it's time for her final Pokemon, Dragonair, who is a lot tougher than what it may seem, taking out Pikachu, but Ash has a guest Pokemon on his team, welcoming back battling with Charizard after a long time of training in the terrific valley. Ash tries to strategize certain moves to be able to catch Dragonair with a more powerful one, where Charizard goes in for a seismic toss, converting it to mix with a fire spin that ends up massively slamming into the ground and knocking out the Dragonair, as Ash is now the victor and awarded the Rising badge. We started at the first gym in the region with Charizard winning, and to where Charizard is now coming through to help clutch the final gym was pretty epic and satisfying. After this, Charizard heads back to the valley, and now the group has 3 months to explore, train, and become prepared for the Johto League Silver Conference. During this time, Ash is tasked with getting an egg from the Marine Pokemon Laboratory, which through this we get some time to see Ash's Lapras again from the Orange Isles. We get to see how much Lapras has grown, even being promoted to the leader of their group, after how well it helped protect the herd from Team Rocket. Just a nice little reunion, as Ash now has to take care of this egg, which quickly hatches into a Larvitar, a really cool Pokemon that can one day through evolution become a Tyranitar, being a truly unstoppable force. If you know me, I like Tyranitars. We love Tyranitar's around these parts. Ash is given the responsibility of looking over Larvitar for Professor Elm, with a goal of bringing it to Mount Silver, which would be the direction that they would need to head in anyway. Ash and Larvitar quickly build a nice bond and some real trust here, as it's new to the world, trying not to be afraid of everything in it. And now on the path they come across Entei, the real Entei this time, and that's pretty exciting. At one point we run into an Elekid, the pre-evolution for Electabuzz, that is checking in on the group's break site before both the Elekid and Larvitar get captured by Team Rocket. As now they have to go after them, they run into Casey again, who has definitely had some time to grow as a trainer and really start finding her own footing, now with her Bayleaf being evolved into a Meganium. She was trying to find that Elekid and wants to catch it, so after working together to stop Team Rocket and get these two back, Casey battles and catches the Elekid. Larvitar is just happy that Casey is going to take good care of the Elekid, and we get to see that she is halfway done getting all of her badges, now having 4 of the 8. We then get a trippy episode featuring a sick Unknown, and I don't know why, but seeing this image of the Unknown in a little bed with a little washcloth on its head, whatever that is, it's just really funny. And then shortly after this, we get to Larvitar's final destination for a drop-off with its mother. So not too much time with Larvitar, but it was fun while it lasted, and Larvitar gained some nice confidence along the way. We now meet Harrison, who is from a different region, specifically the Hoenn region, which we speak about our journey through there in part 3. He is here to compete in the tournament as well, and looks forward to a nice little rivalry with Ash. And we get to see the Ho-Oh Shrine be the start of the torch running event for the Silver Conference, which it is now time for. Wow, time flies. Ash and Gary meet up again and continue their rivalry for how well they're going to do against each other. They all have to pass their screening matches so that the brackets can be made, resulting in Ash defeating a Furret, one of my more favorite Pokemon, with Pikachu, as we see that both Gary and Harrison also passed no problem. During the night in excitement, Ash can't sleep and finds that Gary can't either, as they both spend the night looking back on their journey as trainers, with Gary pondering of what kind of trainer would Ash have been if he didn't arrive late that day. How would things have changed for either of them? They vow to give it their all, but no matter what, if they have to face each other along the way, there is no holding back, fully wanting to give each other the battle they deserve. I think this was a really sweet moment to show how much both of these two have grown, how much respect they have for one another, and what's ahead for their futures. They even work together for the opening ceremonies when Ash gets tied up by Team Rocket, and Gary has to save him as they now chase them to get Pikachu back, as Jesse and James also collide with a torch runner, and Gary catches the torch, and the two of them help the injured runner and get the flame back to the arena to make sure it's transferred in, signifying the official start of the end. Okay, that sounds a little dark. The official start of this tournament. Ash gets caught up the next day in a weird love but not love triangle, as this one girl Macy who helps out save her Vulpix from Team Rocket becomes infatuated with Ash, where Misty jumps in and she asks if Misty is his girlfriend, so they get into a whole big screaming match about it. But Ash needs to focus on crafting his team, needing water Pokemon, as Macy will be his first opponent, and she has fire type Pokemon. All he has access to right now is Kingler and Tonadile, but surprise surprise, Officer Jenny brings Ash a familiar friend, his Squirtle, who rejoins Ash for now, especially after Kingler gets injured and won't be able to battle. And as the battle starts, Ash has Totodile go out against Macy's Slugma, but after Totodile is getting the upper hand, she recalls the Slugma for now and sends out a surprise for Ash, an Electabuzz, so Ash responds swapping Pokemon as well, sending out Phanpy, with Ash having a solid backup typing in the event of this happening. But Macy is annoying, so she recalls the the Electabuzz and sends back out Slugma, but Phanpy still takes it out. She sends in Quilava, who takes out Phanpy, so Totodile comes back out, and then she swaps back to the Electabuzz. Great, this is so annoying. I get the strategy. You're still insufferable. Electabuzz takes out Totodile, leaving Ash with only Squirtle left. And that's okay, because Squirtle comes through here, skull bashing the Electabuzz to knock it out, and then against the Quilava, hydro pumping it out of commission, resulting in Ash as the victor of the match. But this is just part of the preliminary rounds for the semifinals. The 48 trainers who pass the screening are split up into 16 groups of 3, and only one of the 3, based on the points of how their matches end, is able to advance to the victory tournament, with Ash having 3 points for winning his match, and Macy now defeating Jackson and earning 3 points. Ash must now face Jackson and try to beat him in order to have enough points to win out of their group. Ash switches around some Pokemon choices for his party and is ready to take him on. We start off with Azumarill versus Pikachu, and Ash is able to work with Pikachu, taking out Azumarill, where now more sparks will fly thanks to him sending out a shiny Magneton that is able to overpower Pikachu and knock him out. Cyndaquil comes out next, and it does its best but ultimately loses to the Magneton as well. So with one Pokemon left, Ash sends out Bulbasaur to handle things, being able to stop the rampage of Magneton, and then hold up as long as it can with a Meganium, serving to be quite the opponent, where they both end up fainting at the same time, leaving the match as a draw, but giving Ash enough points to technically win overall. They show some good sportsmanship. Both Harrison and Gary made it out of their groups as well and into the top 16 with Ash, but in the first matchup here, Ash will go up against Gary. Finally, the rival fight is about to happen, maybe a bit earlier than expected. The fun of the rivalry comes back with Gary getting under Ash's skin. This is going to be a tough battle, and Ash truly has to give it his all here more than ever. We get a deeper look into why their rivalry is so strong and where some of these deeper feelings are coming from. Ash pulls out a smaller white bottom half of a Pokeball, where he tells Brock and Misty that before Ash and Gary got started on their Pokemon journeys, they both liked to fish at this similar spot around Pallet Town, and Ash catches a Magikarp who flails and hits him in the face, to where now Gary laughs at him and pokes fun at how he can't even name moves that Magikarp would have. In competition, while fishing at this spot, they both end up getting hooked on a Pokeball under the water, as they both tugged on it and it splits in two, seeing who was going to win this battle of strength, with Ash getting the technically smaller white half and Gary ending up with a larger red half. Ash calls this a draw, but Gary disagrees with this. It's either that Gary won or nothing, because to tie with Ash would be just as bad as losing, which is pretty harsh. Ash holds on to this half still as a reminder and good luck charm, but is now confident to finally get a win against Gary. This was a nice little look into the relationship Ash and Gary have had, seeing right before they left that there was this rivalry between them already. But what was their relationship before this? It's something to ponder over for now. Ash, along with his friends, try working on a strategy based on all of the options of Pokemon that Gary has and may use. Then, like a gift from the heavens, to help out in this tournament, Charizard appears from the sky as Brock made a reach out for him to come and visit, perhaps a secret weapon. Professor Oak arrives to speak to both Ash and Gary as well before the match, upgrading their Pokédexes with new data. It's now all led up to this. Ash sends out his Tauros as Gary sends out his Nidoqueen, which we know how much of a powerhouse that Pokemon is for Gary, and it's able to literally grab life by the horns, or in this case, Tauros by the horns, and deliver an inescapable Hyper Beam, taking Tauros out completely. Heracross comes out to play, good to see him again, as Gary switches between Nidoqueen and Magmar. And the two go at it for a while, but Heracross's Mega Horn takes down the Magmar. But Gary doesn't really mind. He just sends out his Blastoise now, and the battle fiercely continues.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Vaporeon!
This is a larger battle, being a full 6-on-6, so there is a lot of action left to go. Blastoise's power was too much for Heracross though, and we get another old friend to return, Muck. He does a decent job holding up against Blastoise, but Ash switches Muck out for Bayleaf, but despite her best efforts, is left knocked out from Blastoise. Ash's mom and Professor Oak reminisce over the boys' younger days growing up, cluing us into a less rival-filled past before things changed for them. Ash sends out his Snorlax and Gary has his Arcanine at the ready, and Snorlax shows off how strong he truly is, and takes out the big fire dog. Nidoqueen comes back out, but that good old Ice Punch that Snorlax has takes out the Nidoqueen as well, leaving the match at a tie so far, both trainers having 3 Pokemon left. Ash is truly giving Gary a battle worthy of his respect, and potentially a lot more than he anticipated for. Gary sends out a Scizor, who wastes no time to find a lead, taking Snorlax back to Dreamland. Muck comes back out but gets tossed around and diced up, leaving Ash with one final Pokemon. That's right, and no, it's not Pikachu. It's Charizard, showing that throughout all of his battles here, he uses one of his original 3 starter Kanto Pokemon each. First Squirtle, then Bulbasaur, and now his Charizard, which, will just count as the Charmander, but it evolved twice and the others didn't. After a long time of training, becoming a better disciplined and more battle-ready Pokemon than ever before, and now fully willing to work with Ash on a respectful level, Charizard is back and it's a beautiful sight to see. He takes out Scizor pretty easily, then pushes through Golem like he's Chris Redfield and he's punching a boulder, leaving the final matchup between Charizard versus Blastoise. Ash starts coming up with some sort of tactics as the typing advantage is all in Gary's favor here massively. He has Charizard burn the field to surround the arena in nothing but heat, making Blastoise kind of stuck. Blastoise tries to keep up by cooling things off, but Charizard goes in for some close-up combat, where Charizard grabs Blastoise for a seismic toss, ignoring the biting coming from the Blastoise, as they slam into the ground, causing a dust cloud for them to hide the results in, as everyone waits to see who's the winner. The dust settles and Blastoise picks itself up, staring intensely at Charizard, who is glaring right back, but he couldn't hold himself up for long, collapsing, and Charizard had won the fight, meaning Ash had just won the battle, defeating Gary Oak for the first time in a real and meaningful way, to show how much he has grown to no longer feel like he's in the shadow of Gary, having to play catch up and be belittled by him. Ash and Charizard share a special moment of excitement over the battle, and Gary speaks with Ash privately later that night, giving Ash the top half of the Pokeball, showing that he had it with him this whole time as well. He shows a calm respect for Ash, declaring him a real winner, as the rivalry is no more, or at least no longer a mean-spirited one, shaking hands and having Gary there to root for him now. Also, yeah, this was like the first match that he didn't use Pikachu for. His most important match, maybe to date, at least for personal reasons, and he doesn't toss in his boy at all. Very interesting to note, but it's okay. It's time for the next round, with Ash now having to go up against none other than his newer rival from the Hoenn region, Harrison, who sends out a Kecleon, as Ash now uses his trusty Pikachu. This is another 6-on-6 battle. We all are excited for Ash to go all the way with this tournament, especially now that his biggest challenge is behind him. Things start out well with Pikachu defeating the Kecleon, but Pikachu gets slashed up by a Sneasel. Totodile avenges Pikachu, defeating the Sneasel, but Hypno does the same avenging of his own, sending Totodile out of the match. This back and forth showed itself to be a stacking layer of skills and strategic plays, but who will send out the heavier hitter to stop this first? Snorlax is back and takes out the Hypno, and after a brief intermission, the match continues, where Ash now sends out Noctowl and Harrison sends out a Steelix, who is just enough bronze to take out Noctowl's brains, leaving Ash to send back out his Snorlax, who handles taking out the Steelix with some nice and powerful combos. Harrison now sends out Houndoom, who runs through Snorlax no problem. The back and forth knockout for knockout hasn't stopped. Nothing here is too one-sided. It could go to anyone this match. Bayleaf comes out and gives it her all, ending in a body slam to the Houndoom, bringing Harrison to his last Pokemon, Blaziken, a Generation 3 Pokemon and the full evolved version of the Hoenn Firestarter Torchic. This power-foul anthropomorphic beast is something to fear, easily taking out Bayleaf and becoming the perfect opponent for Ash's Pokemon, Charizard. This battle is probably one of the most exciting yet in the series. Pure powerful skill from 2 tip-top fire Pokemon who try to best each other, with a final test of strength when both of them get back up after some massive attacks on each other, with Charizard sadly falling back to the ground, giving Harrison the win, and Ash is officially knocked out of the tournament. Ash is pretty bummed about this, but his Pokemon did great, and he worked well implementing more strategy into his battles. He still beat Gary, and he has a full group of people who are there supporting him. We get to see a nice goodbye to Squirtle, who heads back to the Squirtle squad. Harrison in the next match would lose as well, with none of the 3 who we were looking at here making it to the end to become champion. Ash blames himself for Harrison's loss because of Blaziken being too hurt for battle in the next round, and later in the night the two have a conversation, and Harrison mentions that Ash should go go and travel to the Hoenn region, meet even more new Pokemon, see what new experiences are out there that await him. Ash, of course, gets excited over this, wanting to check out what an even further away region could hold. We also get to see how smart Gary is when it comes to knowing things about Pokemon, where we've seen some hints about this in the past, but here he has a new goal in mind for his future, and that's becoming a Pokemon researcher, studying evolution to fully try and understand it. He bows out of further Pokemon tournaments, no longer believing that this is his journey, giving props to Ash and giving him encouragement for his journey as they part ways. Harrison, Gary, and Ash all head down their own separate paths from this point. On our main trio's travels back, Misty gets a call from her sisters, who are leaving for a trip and they need Misty to come back home and look over the gym and be its leader. She's not really ready to leave this big adventure though with Ash, but Ash is all for her taking some time to go be a gym leader, even surprising her with her bike all fixed up thanks to Nurse Joy, back from when Ash took it and got it destroyed in the first episode. Instead of being happy at this, she runs away emotionally. She feels that Ash doesn't care that this would split up their group after their adventures, even though he was just looking out for her and repaying his long overdue debt. She then ends up getting harassed by this trio of trainers while being in this state that basically force her hand into battling them, where it's 3 against 1, but Brock and Ash jump in to make it a fair 3-on-3. Misty notes that she could have handled this all on her own, and they knew that, but the opportunity to battle together as a trio was something they didn't want to pass up. After all of this, and some Team Rocket stuff, Ash tells Misty how good she is, as they head out onto their paths home. Misty, while still being sad, makes sure Ash knows to take care of Pikachu and of course himself, also mentioning one last thing to him, and that is to just keep doing your best. Ash notes that them meeting, this whole journey was meant to happen. Whether it just randomly started or not, it was always meant to be, as Brock adds on that they all have become best friends, walking until they hit a 3-way intersection of paths that all lead them separately back to their hometowns. Brock has had to head back home as well, but didn't want to bring it up until he had to, as they all give some thoughtful goodbyes, with Ash being given a picnic set up from Brock and Misty giving him a handkerchief that it gets wrapped in. Ash is emotional at this, as after they separate, he runs home crying. Once there, he also finds that Gary had already made it back home and left, also leaving behind all of his Pokemon to go start anew on his own path. But Ash goes and finds him to figure out where he's going, only to mask that he doesn't know where he wants to go now. Gary is off to learn more about Pokemon as he tells Ash to go spend some time and figure out what's next for him. And Ash hands him back the top half of the Pokeball that was split as a gesture to always be connected and remember each other while on their journeys. Ash is now back at home, outside, sulking in the fact that his friends are not around. He feels alone and doesn't like it, but then he sees Ho-Oh once again in the sky, this time in full color, flying in the direction of a new region, unexplored by Ash, the one that Harrison comes from, the Hoenn region. Following Gary's lead once again, he wants a fresh start, but dealing with Team Rocket shortly after this, he knows that even without his friends being directly there, they are always with him, and willpower to always move forward. He gives Professor Oak all of his Pokemon, clearly not Pikachu, and wants to start a new journey in the Hoenn region. Ash's mom knew this was probably coming and packed him some fresh new clothes and a fresh new backpack, and she also got him a ticket for the ferry to take him from Kanto to Hoenn. His Pokedex is upgraded to have information on the Hoenn region Pokemon now, and Tracy promises to take care of his Pokemon that are there. And Ash, now feeling more determined and excited than ever, heads to the ferry to go start the next leg of his adventure. Ash and Pikachu are now on their way to a brand new land and are excited to further their bond with one another. They've come so far in becoming a dynamic duo, both in and out of battle, as they together will now brave a solo adventure, unless you count the fact that they have each other. As Ash changes into his new clothes, slightly changing his look now, and sees Hoenn coming up in sight, with new Pokemon like Wingull, Pelipper, Wailmer, and Sharpedos all around, expanding the horizons even more for their Generation 3 journey to begin. But just before we arrive, Pikachu isn't feeling good, and comes down with a bad fever, stopping the excitement and bringing in all this new worry as we end one journey and start our next one. What will become of Pikachu? Well, guess that's for us to discuss next time. However, we still have another movie to talk about, one that also includes some prominent Pokemon from the 3rd generation, that takes place during Master Quest before we get to the whole Silver Conference. Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias, and oh my gosh, is that a Porygon in the intro? They do care. While Pokemon Heroes still takes place with our original trio and during the Johto region, I really see it as a fresh new start for the Pokemon movie franchise, mainly because the English movie numbering title theme is gone. But what doesn't change is that you do get some Black Star promo cards of the title Pokemon with the home video release, so that's awesome. Now with our trio in Altomar and in a water racing contest through the canal streets similar to Venice, we see some invisible silhouettes of new Pokemon we've never seen before. Ash ends up having his Totodile pulled by one of those silhouettes and forcing him out of the race where Misty ends up winning the race, which is nice to see. Ash isn't mad though, it's just all a fun little competition. We hear about the Guardians of Altomar, Latios and Latias, Pokemon that don't come around until Generation 3, but they get a fun movie before then anyway. Ash meets a mysterious non-verbal girl who captures his attention, but these new Team Rocket members knows of the disguise that this Guardian can pull off by becoming this girl, where the girl is really Latias, and Ash doesn't know this, so he thinks that she's just getting attacked, so he steps in to rescue her, but at some point in their escape, she disappears to Ash's confusion. We then learn about the DMA, the defense mechanism of Altomar, which will tie back to those Team Rocket members that we see Annie and Oakley. Ash then spots the girl again and chases after her, as she leads him to a fake wall that they can run through, and on the other side is a secret garden paradise, where she is alone swinging before Ash is attacked by Latios. And then another girl who looks exactly the same comes, who can speak, and confronts Ash as we learn that this other girl, who is not speaking, is secretly Latias this whole time, surprising Ash as this was the Pokemon's disguise, as she was taking a liking to him, wanting to spend time playing. So we are now shown their ability to sight share, seeing the bond these two guardian Pokemon have, projecting an illusion around them of what the other one sees. We learn that there was a father Latios who was there originally that passed on, leaving these two as orphan sibling Pokemon, and that there is this soul dew that contains Latios' soul, and if in the wrong hands has the power to destroy the whole city, which with how important this item is, has these two Team Rocket members dealing with it. And when in battle with the Rockets, who catch the Guardians off guard, Latios jumps in to protect Latias as he gets captured so she can escape free. The pair then place Latios in the DMA, along with the Soul Dew, and get inside of the controls themselves. And while doing so, resurrect an Aerodactyl and Kabutops, sending them to hunt down the Latios, which happens to be with our main trio. But to make sure no one escapes or gets in, they use the machine to lock down the city, with Ash and Latios being the only ones able to do anything about it right now, with everyone else being trapped. But because of this, have to deal with the fossil Pokemon that are coming after them. Misty and Brock send out their Pokemon to help in the meantime, as Ash and Latios are getting into a bit of trouble here. One of the Team Rocket members, Oakley, starts getting mad with power, thinking she could control the entire world with this machine, as Annie is concerned for her motives now. The machine starts going haywire, Ash makes it there and just shocks the heck out of Annie, who is just standing there, and takes it. But now to save Latios, Latias helps lock the machine to pull him out, as brother and sister are united again. Annie gets Oakley just to try and leave, but then she touches the blackened Soul Dew, which triggers a tsunami. And since she got hurt, that begs the question, Annie, are you Oakley? Alright, I understand why you may hate me with a burning passion. Now to save the city from the massive tsunami, the two Guardians work together to calm and ease the water back into the drained city, saving everyone who lives there at the expense of Latios' life, becoming the new Soul Dew in replacement of their father. As through sight sharing, we get to see an existential look at the afterlife, floating away from Earth until fading into nothingness. Okay, Pokemon, can you chill with making me feel some type of way here? Now that the town is saved and the trio are getting ready to head out, Ash gets a kiss from Bianca, and a gift as well. Or wait, was that Latias? I guess we'll find out one day. Oh, and that drawing we get to see is really nice. And now when our trio head back out, we see more Latios and Latias flying in the air as the cycles continue to protect the area. Heroes is a fan favorite film by many Pokemon fans, and it's easy to see why. It just makes you feel emotions, sets the story in a fun location, and makes you experience death. And what could you ask for more in a Pokemon movie where someone or some Pokemon's gotta die? And oh boy, is this one another tearjerker. Heroes is fantastic. It's really cool to see how much this Guardian Pokemon likes and trusts Ash, from just enjoying their day to then saving it. The relationship between Pokemon and humans is always shown to be so important, and is understandable as a language you would know. Another language I know is Italian. Torneremo presto, which translates to, we'll be back soon.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Cyndaquil!
Ash with his Pokemon throughout Johto definitely go through some massive growth moments. From some old Pokemon to all new Pokemon he met and added to his team. From a big growth arc with Charizard who has to get to a certain point of maturing to learn to hone his attitude and rage, learn to grow stronger and work well with others, Charizard was a lot to handle in the original seasons. And the several times we see him here throughout Johto, he's always come back in to show off how well he's doing to help Ash when he's in need, and each time he comes back, the better he is in attitude and in battle, becoming one of the most powerful and now loyal Pokemon Ash has, or had. It's a complicated relationship, but I'm happy to see this growth. Pikachu, I think, grows at an average level with Ash here, nothing more than really strengthening their bond like usual, but Ash has a great emphasis on team building with so many of the new and old Pokemon that Pikachu is just there for the ride. Kind of the same with Bulbasaur until he is able to find purpose helping the professor, taking care of Ash's Pokemon back at the lab. Squirtle got a nice ending with purpose as well, returning to lead the Squirtle squad and coming back to help Ash when he was in need. And as far as past Pokemon that he caught, it was nice seeing Ash bring in these older Pokemon like Snorlax, Muck, Kingler, and even Tauros, seeing Ash using them for battle strategies and growing as a trainer through what he has learned. If Ash were a Pokemon, he would have grown the most here, but since we are following his journey, yes, Ash fully grew throughout Johto, becoming a stronger trainer, both in his passion for bonding with his Pokemon and for how he started to apply himself with battle strategies, type advantages, and really understanding it all. It felt like you were learning all of these too. He was someone you could relate to and mastering it. He felt like he was there to learn and grow with you rather than just teach you for the sake of reiteration. He acquires a Heracross early on who is this powerful beetle Pokemon that has an incredible amount of strength. He acquires a Cyndaquil that he helps empower to find its inner strength and confidence in itself, especially in battles when the enemies are most times way bigger. Totodile joins Ash and is an energy-filled, powerful little guy. Noctowl is the brains, and the battle strategies and learning how to overcome certain circumstances really stem from Ash's time with Noctowl. Larvitar is breaking out of your shell, learning the world isn't scary and learning trust, and finding that confidence. Phanpy came to be another powerhouse for Ash, being this reliable fighter that is just a happy little joy. Beedrill, while he instantly gave him away, was a nice symbolism of getting over his past mistakes as a younger trainer, and helping a new younger trainer. But by far, the biggest and most impactful relationship here was Ash and his Chikorita, from her independent beginnings to her literally jumping into his arms every time she came out of her ball, to show love to Ash for how thankful she is to be around him and battle with him. She's powerful and represents the strength that Ash has, while still having that soft emotional side. Again, something that Ash also has. Things at some points were a bit rocky when she grows in size when evolving into a Bayleaf, but they both grow from this in the ways how Ash now speaks to her, and her learning to show love in a way that doesn't accidentally hurt him and have a level of self-control. Ash and his Pokemon on this part of the journey are a definite highlight, and I love that Pokemon aren't just caught and forgotten about for the most part throughout all of the series. And here in Johto, we truly see it on full display. Whether it was Ash's relationships he makes along the adventure or strengthening the ones he already has, the Johto journey here is full of new friends, old friends, and even a bear. Returning characters like Richie and Todd who join in for a few episodes are really fun to see. While Richie being there didn't really add too much other than a fun reprisal of a character, having Todd back helping out the lodge with his photography and seeking out his own ventures still is a good use of the character being there. Casey was a great new addition that we meet several times at different moments in her journey in the region, growing as a trainer, learning new things every time we revisit her. Ash also gets into some more personal moments with a majority of the gym leaders, giving us moments to really get some time with these powerful trainers, and in some cases, Ash ends up helping them more than they could have ever imagined. Ash's bond with Misty and Brock is also really wholesome, at least in a good amount of the moments. We still have to push through moments mainly with Ash and Misty and their competitive nature, and Ash always somehow getting everything over her and her not getting some time to shine, but she does end up doing so and becomes such a passionate and powerful trainer, and Ash shows her this respect in the end, never doubting her capabilities. Brock becomes a great strategist, working with Ash and coming in clutch with ideas or decisions, like calling in backup from some of his old Pokemon friends when he needed them. But my favorite relationship in general is Ash and Gary. Where we left them on a level of respect from the last series, Johto really puts their relationship to the test, where Ash is still playing catch up and hasn't been able to surpass him in any way. And this rivalry still builds as Ash proves that he can be stronger and eventually being able to defeat him in a real high-stakes Pokemon battle, where the rivalry turns back into what we learn it was before all of this, a friendship. Gary gets to find new passions, and Ash gets the acknowledgement that he isn't a loser in someone he respects eyes, both leaving on their own paths with a piece of a Pokeball that they initially fought over. And hey, only one ban episode this time around, episode 250. It never premiered in the US, as it involved the Pokemon Jinx, and we all know from the last part that Jinx has a design issue, and this episode, it wasn't gonna cut it. But well, now it seems we've reached the end of the second stretch in our complete journey through Ash's Pokemon adventures. We've seen and done quite a bit already, met a lot of new friends, Pokemon, and more. We've encountered great mysteries and fantastical moments that truly make this generation of the Pokemon anime extremely special and held at such a special place in my heart along with the original series. While we still had some letdowns like Ash's time being responsible for the GS ball, turning it into, well, nothing, the series still offered a lot more of a challenging experience that really helped strengthen Ash's bonds to his friends and of course to his Pokemon. But next time on our journey with Ash, things are going to be quite different. Not just because we enter a brand new region, the Hoenn region, we all meet new companions for Ash to adventure with, thus changing the group dynamic and allowing for other characters to grow off-screen while Ash furthers his on-screen. So next time on our complete guide to Ash's Pokemon journey, we enter the next generation, full of more new adventures, world-building Pokemon, and a whole lot of more surprises to come. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Later.